Om Amritishwari Namaha. It is indeed a pleasure to see you all here, especially it is the blessed occasion of Navaratri. Let me extend a warm welcome to one and all. Let us begin with a short prayer. Om Dhyayamo Dhavalavagunthanavatim Tejomayim Naishtikim Snigdhapangavilokinim Bhagavatim Mandasmidashrimukhim Vatsalyamritavarshinim Sumadhuram Sankirtanalapinim Shyamangim Madhusiktasuktim Amrita Nandatnikam Ishwari. Om Amritishwari Namaha. Under the vision, blessing, and guidance of Amma Sadguru Shri Mata Amritanandamayi Devi, Amrita School of Spiritual and Cultural Studies has been contributing to a rich culture through different online and offline activities like courses, camps, and other academic activities. On this auspicious occasion of Navaratri, the celebration of Divine Mother, Jagadamba blessed us with this opportunity to have Shri Aravindan Neelakandan ji. He's a distinguished author, thinker, and scholar with deep focus on Indian culture and the philosophy of science. He's the co-author of the best-selling work Breaking India, and he has also authored Hindutva, Origin, Evolution, and Future, and other books in Tamil that explore culture, history, etc. Aravindan sir also serves as the contributing editor in Swarajya magazine. For our school, Amrita School of Spiritual and Cultural Studies, he has a good friend and a well-wisher. He has been contributing in our school's endeavors through lectures, insightful talks, articles, and constant guidance. We are privileged to have Aravindan sir with today. We eagerly anticipate the insightful wisdom he is going to share with all us today. Let me welcome Aravindan sir.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. This holy night of Navaratri. And the topic is also a very important topic, that the Creator God is also her creation. And without much ado, I will just get into the topic. When we talk about a creator, naturally we mean there is some creative action that has happened or it is happening. Creativity is something that we can see all around us. And in this particular context, when we tell creativity, creator, we essentially mean the God who created the universe, everything that exists. Because today we even talk about multiverse, parallel universes. So everything, all that exists, the God who created is the creator God. Now this is a concept that comes naturally to human mind. When it looks around, when we evolved first from our hominid ancestors, we became one of the important branches, not the only branch. And then when we started observing all these patterns around us, when we started creating our own tools, naturally, it would have come to our mind mind of our species, that there should have been some big creator. And in primate organization, in chimpanzees and the tree-dwelling monkeys, you will always find an alpha male. And the alpha male in such a community would be occupying the highest branch. So naturally, we would be looking up for this celestial alpha male. And thus, we came with this very natural, spontaneous idea that there is a creator God. And then we have been improvising upon it, and we have been telling that there is one God, there is different gods, and that if there is a pot, there should be a potter. If there is a watch, there should be a watchmaker. And hence, we have been under this very clear natural evolution of our concept that there is a creator God. Very interestingly, at a particular point, this particular concept of a creator God somehow defied the understanding of or experience of everything as a unity, as an organic whole. We don't know at which particular point of time this happened, but there is an all-consuming unity. And within that unity, you have to fix this creator God. And this creator God is essentially a creation of our own mind. These concepts started emerging, most probably after an epiphany of some non-dual experience. So you find the particular expression in the 10th mandala of Rig Veda in the famous Nasadiya Sukta, where the presence of a creator is questioned actually. And if there was something, it was that one was, it emerged from this particular point. Perhaps it was like singularity, a particular point from where this one emerged, where there was nothing and there was no existence and there was no non-existence. And beyond these binaries, this one started emerging, and it emerged because of the tapas. And the first seed of desire arose in it, and through this desire, it started creating. So this desire into the one, and then that branching out, the one branching out as many, that particular vision has been arrived here. Now, there is an important thing that we have to notice here. That is, in the later Puranic imagery, you have a very interesting happening called Kama Dagana. Shiva was meditating, and this Kama comes and he, fires his arrow at Shiva, and Shiva disturbed. He looks at Kama, and then Kama gets burnt. So this is something that this is something that we all know. And if you look at the elements in this particular story, you will find that there is tapas, the tapas of Shiva, there is intense heat, and there is Kama. You will find all this present in the Nasadiya Sutta. Then in the Taittiriya Upanishad, there is again the concept of creation comes. Essentially, the projection of the one into many. The one desired to become many. The Kama entered the one. It desired to become many, and then it entered into tapas. Here, if you look at the Taittiriya Upanishad, you will find that the sequence is somewhat slightly modified. There, the Kama comes, and after that, the Kama enters, and after that, the tapas happens. And if you look at Nasadiya Sutta, because of the tapas, the one emerges, and then Kama arises in it as the first seed. And in both of these, the Kama is not the vital force towards pleasure seeking. Kama is essentially a complementarity. It is a complementary thing to tapas. It is not opposed to tapas. But if you look at Kama Tagana, it is opposed to Tapas. This is a very interesting thing, because here the creation, or rather the projection from the unmanifest to the manifest, that projection is the creation as far as the Indian tradition is concerned. And in all Indian traditions, whether it is Sankhya, Vaiseshika, and later in Vedanta, you will find this particular aspect again and again re-emphasized. That it is projection, that it is manifestation. It is not an extra cosmic entity creating the universe. It is the Brahman, or the ultimate reality, becoming the universe. So it is already pregnant with the possibilities of everything, all the existence, pregnant with the possibilities of the non-existence also, and then it becomes the creation. So here you will find that the Brahman, the concept of Brahman, the darshan of Brahman, that later becomes very strong in the Upanishads, is present in the Vedic literature in feminine form as Aditi. So Aditi is the one that is not divided, and Brahman is the one that becomes vast and deep, and it becomes everything. And in all this, the tapas and the kama, that should be made complementary. And this kama is not the pleasure-seeking libido that a Freudian psychology would come up with. It is this pleasure-seeking vital force that gets burnt. And after the pleasure-seeking vital force get burned, Brahmanda Purana takes it in two possibilities. One is, there is no goddess, and from the ashes, when there is no goddess, when the kama gets burnt, from the ashes Bandasura arises. This egoistic, power crazy entity, demonic entity arises. So that is what happens when you do not have the goddess and you try to control or conquer the pleasure-seeking libido. At the same time, there is also a name in Lalita Sahasranama that says that goddess is the Aukshidi, the medicine, the healing that rejuvenates, gives back life to Kama. So once the material desires are gone, burnt away, then the spiritual quest starts. And for that, goddess is needed. And at the cosmological level, to make tapas and kamas, the yin and the yang, the goddess is needed. So that is the basic aspect. At the very deeper level, that goddess is the force that creates this complementary harmony between tapas and kamas, and that is the basis of creation. So that is at one level. At another level, we take the creator God. The creator God is present in many civilizations. And in all these civilizations, this creator God always demands that he should be worshipped. Usually the creator God is also masculine God. In the Gnostic tradition, which was later suppressed in the West, we find a very interesting story. That this creator God creates everything and declares that I am the one who has created and I am a jealous God. And then the divine feminine, in the form of Sophia, tells this creator God that you are blinded. You are just an ego God. The real energy behind your creation is Sophia. Sophia is truth. So the divine feminine is behind the real creation. So we have this aspect, this understanding universally, but it is suppressed everywhere else. In India alone, it has been allowed to flower into its all diversities. Okay. Now, if we look at the Western traditions, scientific traditions, now we move from the religious to the scientific traditions, we find an uncanny resemblance. What has happened is that the Western scientific tradition looked at the universe as a machine. This is in a way continuation of the creator God mindset. So when you have the creator God, what happens is that the God designs everything. He's an extra cosmic designer. So he designs everything. Everything is in the form of a machine. So the purpose of science at a particular point was to discover through what kind of mechanisms God has created the world or the universe. So there is this funny stories. We would have heard about these stories that, of course, the characters will be changing. In one of the stories, it is Newton. In another one of the stories, it is Edison, Thomas Alva Edison, that he was going and an atheist came and asked him, argued with him that everything came spontaneously. Then he went home and he created a model of the solar system. He invited that particular atheist friend. And when this atheist friend asked him who created this beautiful solar system, model of the solar system, then Newton or Edison or whatever name you can fill in the blanks with the names. So this that atheist friend, to that atheist friend, this scientist told, this solar system model got created by itself. So the friend said it is not possible. Then the scientist asks him, if the solar system itself could have emerged spontaneously, naturally, then why not a model of the solar system? Then the moral of the story is told that wherever there is creation, there should be a creator. What happened was that the Western science, the Newtonian science, as it progressed, it looked into the universe as a machine and it decided there is no need for a creator as a hypothesis. If you are having a creator, then there should be someone else who should have created this creator. And if there is someone who has created the creator, that creator should have another one creator ad infinitum. If you say at one particular point of time that beyond this particular creator, there is no creator, then why not shorten the logic by telling the universe itself doesn't need a creator? If creator with all the intelligence does not need another one creator, this creation, that is with limited intelligence, why should it need a creator? So there is a logical fallacy in this argument, but nevertheless, this particular what you can call an urban legend continues. Okay. Now, so the scientists, the mathematicians, they thought that you don't need God. God can be done away with. Creator God can be done away with. Creator God is only a juvenile fable of humanity at a particular point of time. And a very good example for this is Laplace, a famous French mathematician. It is said that when Napoleon asked him what you are doing, and he told that I am creating this huge mathematical model. And this mathematical model, if you know the position and the velocity of mass, position, velocity, the momentum and position of a particular particle, for all the particles, if you know, then you can calculate exactly how the universe would progress and exactly how the universe came about. Then Napoleon asked, universe system, where does God fit in? And Laplace answered, Your Highness, I don't need that hypothesis. It's a very famous statement. I don't need the hypothesis of God. Then in 1859, Charles Darwin came up with this theory of evolution. In between, there was a reaction also. This reaction was called natural theology. So persons like William Paley, they said that, look at the way the organisms are. So beautifully they are designed. And for example, an eye of a particular butterfly, compound eye, or you take the way in which the human heart is functioning, brain is functioning. So all this shows that there is a God. And this particular natural theology became a very interesting motivational force for a lot of biologists. They wanted to go inside the organism and study the organism like an engineering marvel. The engineer, of course, being God. So this natural theology became a very strong framework for biology till a particular point of time. So when Charles Darwin got into HMS Beagle for his world tour, he essentially believed in this natural theology to an extent. But when he had gone through the entire South Africa, Galapagos Island and all that, when he saw how actually evolution works, when he discovered the process of natural selection, he came to the conclusion that you don't need a God at all. So God has been removed. The creator God has been removed. What exists was a machine. The universe was a machine. Biology, in the case of biology, it was different. Because what Charles Darwin discovered was that essentially what the Upanishads say, that the one becomes many. The many people have this wrong understanding that Darwin's kind of proposed that survival of the fittest, the mightiest alone would be living, the weak ones will be removed, and all those kind of things. Charles Darwin didn't say that. It was Herbert Spencer's view. What Darwin actually proposed was that the one life branches out into many. And this is the process of evolution, and natural selection is the mechanism through which this particular process happens. And philosophers like Daniel Dennett, they say that this is an algorithmic process. That is, if you have enough number of replicators and if you are having mutations and there are selection pressures, it will happen irrespective of whether it is carbon-based or whether it is silicon-based. This evolution would be happening. Okay, let us forget that particular point right now. Let us concentrate on this evolution, biological evolution. So in biological evolution, what Darwin proposed was, and what it implied was that life is a continuum, it is not categories. The species are not separate compartmentalized categories, it is a continuum. And this is in accordance with the Vedanta. That is why J.B.S. Haldane, who was a Marxist and who later became a Hindu, he said once famously that when Charles Darwin proposed this, unconsciously, Europe got converted to Hinduism, unconsciously. Okay, because this is a Hindu darshan. Now, then comes this new physics. And when new physics emerged, particularly Heisenberg's uncertainty principle and quantum mechanics, then this certainty, the mechanistic certainty of the universe was gone. What Laplace told, that if I know the position of a particular particle and the momentum of the particle, I will be able to predict the future, that was gone. Uncertainty is part and parcel of the universe, just like space and time and matter and energy. Uncertainty is also part and parcel of the universe. This uncertainty will always be accompanied. Now, this has to be taken and this has to be again integrated with the concept of the origin of the universe. And many people have been trying about this. And one very interesting person, of course, there is again a side story of the new physics, the general theory of relativity and quantum mechanics are having some fundamental problems. And Albert Einstein said the famous statement that God doesn't play dice with the universe, etc., etc. Many people have been trying to integrate quantum mechanics and general theory of relativity, particularly gravity. In this, in search of a complete concept, complete theory, in search of a holism, one important physicist who tried to do this was David Bohm. So David Bohm, very interestingly, he was a very, very, very intelligent, genius theoretical physicist. This theoretical physicist was also a Marxist. And so he was kind of, there was a witch hunt against communists in United States. So he had to leave United States. He had to go to South America. But then when he realized what actually the Soviet Union was doing to the scientists and how the Marxist dialectical materialism itself was behaving like a religion, he got into depression. And after that, beyond all these agonies, he started looking into Eastern philosophies also, Eastern traditions also. David Bohm and J. Krishnamurti's conversations are very famous. They are published under the title Ending of Time. And David Bohm has talked separately about his view of the universe, in that he specifically mentions something that because of his talks with J. Krishnamurti, he sees the universe as, the Big Bang and expansion and all that. He says that it is a kind of unfolding like flowering. So he says that this is the universe flowering of the universe. Very interesting way of looking at the universe, flowering of the universe, because this is exactly the imagery that is used again and again in Sakta literature, that the goddess is a bud who flowers into the universe. The entire universe is the flowering of the goddess. Exact words, at least some 300 years before David Bohm. Those words have been used in South India by a great Sakta saint called Abhirami Bhatta in his poem Abhirami Andadi, which is as important for South Indian Sakta people as Elda Sahasranam. And here you have the goddess becoming the universe. And then, again, people were working on this particular problem of integrating quantum gravity with gravitational force with quantum mechanics. And again, there was another one solution that was given called the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics of this. It's based on string theory also. Mikio Kaku is a very famous quantum physicist, has been proposing this. And then he was also looking at the different mythologies, and he found that two important creation mythologies are prevalent. And one is that of the Buddhist Advaitic view, in which the Nirvana or the Brahman forms the substratum. And then there is this Judeo-Christian creation story, from creation to the end of the world, a straight line. How do you integrate both, he asked. And then he came up with an answer. He told that single universes in which this creation comes, they have to be seen as kind of bubbles arising from the substratum of the Brahman or the Nirvana. They come up, they exist for some time, and then they again melt down. So in this, the Yagiva, or the creator god, is one of the many creator gods who emerge. So you can think of the creator god as some kind of the initial universal constants or the initial stages of a particular universe. And it comes up, it is called soft anthropic principle. In soft anthropic principle, what they tell is that we exist because this particular area of the universe, or this particular universe, is kind of fine-tuned in itself, not by intelligence, but fine-tuned in itself with certain variables, certain constants, so we can observe it. So this is called the soft anthropic principle. So we can think that the soft anthropic principles and the universal constants, the mass of the electron or the speed of the light, all those kind of things that are specific to this particular universe, as the emanations of that creator god of that universe, then you can see that creator god as arising from the Brahman and then returning back to the point. Now, this is what our Vedanta also has been telling as a framework. We won't tell that the Vedantic rishis knew quantum mechanics or Big Bang or parallel universes. It is not like that. But the epistemological framework and the ontological variety that they created, the pluralism, the epistemological pluralism that they created, that has this space for us. And they also, what they did was, they made this all into spiritual discipline, so that if you want to walk the path of spiritual, that of a spiritual seeker, then you can use them for that. But if you want to become a scientist also, you can use them. Like always I tell the example of George Sudarshan, because he said that when he read Vishnu Sahasranama, the very first word, the Viswam, that showed that the entire universe is the body of Vishnu. And so studying the universe, it becomes a kind of a spiritual sadhana. The very physical aspects of the universe, studying the physical aspects of the universe becomes the spiritual sadhana for it. So this Brahman is the basis from where this universe arises, small universes arise and they fall down. And those conditions in that universe that create its own life forms, they can be seen as the creator God of that particular universe. And these creator gods are all arising from the Brahman. So how does this happen? In Sri Lalita Sahasranama, certain names are associated with this. For example, Leela Klipta Brahmanda Mandala. So here you see that the goddess creates multiple universes just as a play. Who would be playing? A child will be playing. So this Leela Klipta Brahmanda Mandala connects naturally with another one name, Bala Leela Vinodhi. So she is the child, and as a child she plays, and out of this play this universe arises. Then there is, very intriguing name, Unmesha Nimishotpanna Vipanna Puvanavali. It's a very, very interesting name because it contains a lot of possibilities. When you look at this name and you study what the latest physicists are talking about their worldview. So I think his name is Brian Greene. He has written a book on quantum mechanics. So in this he says about this many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. So what he says is that along with the entropy, the way the entropy goes on increasing in a system, you know that in a closed system, the entropy goes on increasing. So the way the entropy goes on increasing in a system, the same way the many worlds get multiplied. Now, if you look at the name of the particular thing, this particular goddess in Lalita Sahasranama, this particular name, Nimishotpanna Vipanna Bhuvanavali, here the time and entropy is related to time. The time is irreversible for us. It moves in a linear way for us because of the increasing entropy in our universe, in our perceived universe, in the macro universe. And what Brian Greene says is that this increase in entropy and the way in which the worlds multiply, the multiple worlds hypothesis, they have a resemblance. And here in this particular name, it talks about rows of universes, rows of worlds. And how do they arise and how do they dissolve back? Unmesha Nimishotpanna. So when she opens her eyes and closes her eyes, which is actually a measure of time, with that, the different worlds come and then they again get merged. So here you see that the goddess here becomes the basis of everything. So it is said Midya Jagat Adhisthana. So here she is the Adhisthana of what is perceived as this unreal world. Because when a person becomes very spiritual, the person tends to say or considers himself very spiritual, then they tend to say that the world is mithya, the world is unreal. But in Lalita Sahasranama, it very clearly says that she is the basis of this so-called unreal world. So you cannot throw it away as unreal. You have to act in this world. Now, this is one particular aspect of the creator God, that the universe, the physical world in the universe, there the creator God, whom we take here as a symbolic representation of a particular condition, becomes very much the emanation of the goddess. It is in this sense the goddess becomes the creatrix of the creator God. She is the matrix. She is the basis of the creator God at one level. Now, creation also happens when you are writing a poem. Creation also happens whenever there is creativity in you. So, from where does that creativity come? Is that creativity in some way a fractal, a small micro fractal of the grand creation that is happening around you? That would be another one interesting question for you to ask. So if you take that, that is the psychological element, you will find that you can answer it in two ways. One is that how our brain functions and how there is a shift in the brain's perception. Creativity is essentially taking two things which look unrelated and then look for a deeper connection between them. Arthur Koestler, a very good thinker, he wrote a book in 1964 called Act of Creation, which he actually explored into this particular aspect. So he said, bisociation, there is something called bisociation. What is bisociation? He starts with a very simple example. You take a joke. What is the basis of a joke? What is the basis of the joke? The basis of the joke is that you are in one particular frame and suddenly there is a shift into another frame. There is a shift that is unexpected and that makes you laugh. He says that this is the basis of creativity. A shift from one frame to another frame and there is a connection. And discovering this connection, that forms creativity. V.S. Ramachandran, who is a neurobiologist, he also puts forth a theory similarly, that when there are completely two different things that you are perceiving and then you find a connection. So that is what basically the poets do. When a poet says that your eyes are looking like lotus buds in a clear pool, what he says is that the eyes, which are part and parcel of a face, an organ, is connected to a beautiful flower that is in a pond. So he connects two unrelated things through a deeper creativity. So this creativity, where does this arise from? That is the next question that we have to ask. This creativity arises from the goddess in our tradition. So we see that the goddess Saraswati, she becomes the basis of all creativity. And when she becomes the basis of all creativity, what she does, as we saw already, she creates the connection. Whatever is paradoxical gets harmonized. That is why she is the Srishtikarti, Brahma Rupa. So Hindu tradition sees the entire Srishti as 5 archetypal functions: Shishti, Siddhi, and then Samhara, and then Tirodhana, and then Anugraha. All the 5 are related. These are the 5 archetypes, basic archetypes in any creative component, in any creative process. In all these 5 aspects are emanations of the goddess. So at the level of psychology, when you think of a deeper connectivity, there also the goddess comes. And then there is the social creativity. The social level, how does the creation happen? In all the societies, the social structures evolve. Unfortunately, many of the people think that social structures are imposed from above by some kind of laws. It may be Shariat, it may be 10 Commandments, it may be the canonical law, it may be the constitutional law. Somehow the law is imposed from above. That is how most of the societies think. But actually, the societies evolve. So How do the societies evolve? Again, the Hindu mind saw this as having 4 basic social archetypes, which are the 4 varnas. And remember that the varna is based on swabhava, which is the result of the 3 gunas, the equilibrium and the dynamics of the 3 gunas. And hence, swabhava, swadharma, and varna and the 3 guna all are related. When they are all related, what is your varna is something only you know. You know through a deeper social contract. It is not a social contract that is constitutional. It is not a social contract that is even visible outside. But whether you are a Kshatriya or a Brahmana or a Vaishya or a Sudra is something that only you know, your heart knows, and your actions will show it. And you need not be even Varna can be fluid also. But the point is, this is an evolving system. And this evolving system is strictly worth-based and not birth-based. And she is Varnashrama Vidayini. If only this is there, then it is not complete. There should also be a sense of yajna. You see, only in Hindu society, right from the Harappan days to this day, the concept of yajna has been there. You take the Harappan civilization itself. If you take the Harappan civilization, you will find that compared to all the Bronze Age civilizations, in Harappan civilizations, you do not have economic inequality much. At the same time, there was social stratification. There was social stratification. There is very clear archaeological evidence. Jonathan Mark-Kenoyer had written a lot of papers about how there was social stratification. But there is no social differences. There is no social inequalities much. There was inequality, but not much, as in other bronze civilizations. Come to think about it, you take any Indian village, pre-colonial Indian village, or even an Indian village that was the beginning of the independence. Suddenly, the Indian village disappears under the soil. Some earthquake happens, the entire village has disappeared. Someday, archaeologists are digging back the village. Do you think that the place where the Brahmins were living and the place where the farmers were living, there would be much of an economic difference? The Brahmins too would have been living in the huts. The farmers too would have been living in the huts. There would be no much difference. If you look very carefully, you will find that all the structures that the Indian civilization created were public structures. Rajaraja Chola was there. He was a great king. He knew how to build the most beautiful temple, very majestic temple. But then why he didn't build a palace for himself? There's a very interesting question that we have to ask. That was because the concept of yajna was there. Whatever that you are doing it as a yajna. So if you are an artisan, you are employing some artisans, the artisans are actually doing yajna. And the person who is employing the artisans, he becomes the yajamana. So this is a common term throughout India, that the landowner or the person who is an entrepreneur, he is called yajamana. So if you are an yajamana and if your work is a yajna, what is the status of the people who are doing that yajna? They are in the same status of the Brahmin Brohitas. So a farmer who is tilling the land is actually a Brahmana who is doing a yajna. So this is the yajna or Jagmani system. Unfortunately, the first book on Jagmani system was written by a anthropologist who was also a missionary who was working in North India. So he visualized the whole thing as kind of arising out of Manusmriti. It was oppressive, it was fatalistic, etc. It came in 1938, I think. Some 4 or 5 years before that, Mahatma Gandhi from Yerwada prison, he had written about how the different artisans in the village work and how they work with the spirit of yajna and how they are contributing to the welfare and to the nation building movement. So here is an example of how the social system gets created, evolved. In this also, she is Varnasrama Vidayini, she is Yajna Rupa, Yajamana Swarupi. So in all these levels, whether it is the physical, the biological, the psychological, social levels, the goddess always is there as a presence. And she is an involuted presence. This is the most important aspect of the entire thing. So we have in the again Lalita Sahasranama, you have this sequence. Mula Pragati, Avyakta, Vyakta, Vyakta Swarubini, Vyabini, Vividagara. So you look at this particular sequence, it gives you a blueprint for all evolutions. It gives you a blueprint for all the evolution processes. Mula Pragati, it is there as Mula Pragati in the condensed form. From the Mula Pragati, what happens is Avyakta, which is not just unmanifest, it is undefinable. So this undefinable element will be there. Now, naturally, we will expect that after Mula Prakriti and Avyakta, you should have Vyakta, which is the manifest or the defined element. But very, the genius of Lalita Sahasranama in this is that after Mula Prakriti and Avyakta, they tell Vyakta, Avyakta. The next name is not Vyakta, the next name is Vyakta, Avyakta. Both are together. Vyakta does not exist as a category in itself. There is no such thing as a complete manifest thing. If there is a complete manifest thing, then it becomes a mechanical product. Then there is an extra cosmic intelligence that creates that product. No. Here, along with Vyakta, there is Avyakta. So along with the manifest, there will always be the unmanifest or the undefined. There will always be the uncertainty. And that uncertainty will have all the creativity inside it. Anything that can become further and further evolved, all that evolutionary possibilities at each and every point is there as involuted Avyakta. Then that becomes Vividagara. It becomes the main. So this is the sequence of evolution that Lalita Sahasranama gives us. And this framework, you can apply it. The beauty of this framework that this Lalita Sahasranama gives is that you can apply it to a physical investigation of how the universe got formed, how a particular quantum mechanical particle system gets evolved, how a particular simulation in AI gets evolved, or how a particular psychological process happens, how a social interaction happens, how a social intervention should be evolved to fit into a system. In all this, you can use this format. This is the beauty of it. But if you just take the creator alone, then you will be looking at it only as a mechanical contraption. Anything, whether it is a psychological relation, whether it is a social interaction, whether it is a biological organism, you will see it as only a collection of entities interacting like billiard balls or like the components of a machine. But presence of the goddess at each and every point as Avyakta. In fact, Adi Sankara, when he talks about Maya, he says Avyakta Namni. So Maya is the creative energy through which the entire evolution happens. And he gives the name Avyakta Namni, Paramesa Sakti, Anadi Avidya, Trigunatmika. And all these are names that come in Lalita Sahasranama, and he gives it to Maya. So the Maya is the creative energy. It is not a delusional energy. It is a creative energy. And it is the other side of Anugraha. So if Anugraha is to be there, Maya has to be there. Without Maya, Anugraha is not possible. And this combination is what makes the entire universe a learning experience for us, the learning field for us. So we can move into it, we can work in it, and we can understand it through this particular framework. I hope I have helped you understand something. I have shared my thoughts with you. And you can ask questions if you want. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for this wonderful session. Actually, it reminds me one sloga from Devi Mahatmya or Durga Saptashati, like Vidya Samasta Stava Devi Bheda, like all the Vidyas, all the knowledge is there in Devi. Similarly, entire this is part of the pre-launch of our Hindu studies course. So most of the aspects of Hindu culture and civilization you have through Devi, like in Bengal and all, they'll show a mirror to Devi and do all the pujas in that mirror. Similarly, seeing Devi, it is actually a mirror towards our civilization and culture. So thank you so much for your thoughts, sir. So it is a time for question. So please feel free to ask, raise your hands, or you can just ask questions, unmute yourself and ask questions.
Sir, could you tell me the exact time of writing of the Sahasranama Stotra? I ask you this question because it says that, Brahmanda Kodi, like that, the universe is considered to be an anda form. So, so it was a later discovery, by the scientists that the whole universe is in an anda shape or egg form. So was it a miracle that, the Rishi or the person who wrote the Sahasranama could conceptualize the entire universe in the form of an egg? So what's your comment on it?
Well, if you take Brahmanda Purana, of which Sri Lalita Sahasranama is part, it was definitely written not later than, let us say, 5th century CE. Not later than 5th century CE. Okay, that is one. Number two, this particular thing, Anda, Brahmanda, is a very interesting name that our people have given it to it, because also the very first condition of the entire universe is Hiranya Garbha, which itself suggests that it was a kind of an egg. Okay, either it talks about the shape of the egg, or more importantly for me, it is, see, you can divide the entire with the poles. It is the basis is this. You can divide all the religions basically crudely into two parts, not very strict divisions, general. One is allopoetic religions and autopoetic religions. Okay, allopoetic religions have a creator God outside, and he will be designing. So here, the universe is a clockwork. Autopoetic religions, the divine principle is inside the creation. It is more like a egg. From inside, the life movement will be expanding itself. So, the Brahmanda could have come from that conceptual, functional aspect also. It need not actually be out of the physical shape, though it is a wonderful coincidence, or perhaps it is a real insight into the physical universe, the shape of the universe. So it could be either way.
Thank you very much, sir. So if you permit me, I would like to ask one more question, because, in all the Semitic religions, we find, the Satan and the God as opponents. There is some virtues, and at the same time, there are vices. But in the Hindu scriptures, we find, we go to a Nirguna concept, right? We have a Saguna, and then we have all the evils, but at the end, we have a Nirguna concept. So would you say that, the Hindu scriptures or the Vedanta concept of the God has gone beyond, the Semitic religions?
It's a very interesting thing that what we actually ascribe to the so-called Semitic religions, the binary, the good God and the bad Satan. This particular concept actually comes not from the so-called Semitic religion. For example, Judaism. Judaism does not have the original Satan concept. The original Satan comes from Zoroastrian religion, where you have Ahriman versus Ahura Mazda. So Ahura Mazda is the true God, Ahriman is the false God, or the antithesis of the God. When the Jews were in exile in Persia, they got this concept, and small Jewish cults started using this concept of this binary, Ahura Mazda versus Ahriman. And then it became Saturn, and it was taken and into a full-blown manner by Christianity. And after that, it went to Islam. So, in a way, it comes from the Zoroastrian religions. Okay, that is number one. And this binary religions, this binary concept of the world, it is something very attractive for political reasons. Though later there were some attempts to internalize Satan as representing the evil qualities in a person, etc. in later Christianity. Essentially, Satan is always used to stereotype your social and political enemies. Hinduism, Hindu Dharma, the Hindu family of religions, whether it is Shaivism, Vaishnavism, they were never worried about, to a fault, they were never worried about the socio-political aspects, and they never created imagery for socio-political aspects. They created imagery for your inner seeking, and it is always an inner cartography. Our entire Purana is an inner cartography. So, in that way, we do not have this binary. We create binaries only to dissolve them so that we ultimately reach the non-dual state. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Anna, namaste.
Prakash.
Prakash. Anna, namaste. No, I was enjoying this. But you see, in Lalita Sahasranama, every time it speaks about the universe, it says that from Brahma Kita Janani, he's like, essentially it's kind of speaking about Devi create, that she is creating array of universe within her eyelashes are opening and closing, that she's creating again and again. How this creation, or first of all, I think that from Vedas to Lalita Sahasranama, everywhere it is mentioned as a creation. Is there a problem for a Hindu to accept that this is a created thing? Or if you want to make it a different way of a narration, like creation from Abrahamic religions, how we are differentiating it from the other perspectives of the other religions?
See, number one, when we tell creation, actually here we are borrowing the particular term that is already loaded, isn't it? With the Christian Islamic concept of ex nihilo creation, in which an extra cosmic God out of nowhere creates something that is totally inferior to, totally different from him. Right? In the case of what Lalita Sahasranama says, remember, it says it all comes from her. So, Brahma Kita Janani, she gives birth, it comes from her. Everything emerges from her, goes back to her. Everything gets manifested and then it goes back. And when it is getting manifested, that is why I said, whenever there is Vyakta is always accompanied by Avyakta. That is clearly said again and again. And again, Unmeish Nimishotpanna Vibhanna Puvanavali, it arises when she, that is exactly what the description says, the commentary says. When she opens her eyes, the worlds get created. When she closes the eyes, they get dissolved. What is the meaning of that? It's a projection. Projection of her will. We are all projection of her will. In that way, we are an organic part of her. Whereas in the case of ex nihilo creation, as per the Christian and Islamic theologies, the creation is inferior, the creation is different, and it is not of the divine. It is created by the divine, but it is not of the divine. Here it is part and parcel of the divine. That way it is totally different. And that way it resonates with science. We don't have a problem with the evolution in science. I hope that answers the question.
Fantastic. That nails. I had this doubt for a long time. We are also speaking about creation, but then how or why we want to avoid the narration or the tone that the same word is used by the other religion. This is nailing it. Thank you so much. And I'm in depth.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I can see so many questions in the chat box. So, but because of the time limits we have, and we wish we have more sessions with sir. So, I think we can take it later. Like Saif Ali Khan, Nikshita, and many people ask so many questions, and these questions are really wonderful. So I can I really don't know how to maybe we can postpone for another session. I really want to thank you, sir, for this wonderful session, and especially in Navaratri days, we have you also had pujas and things, and you need to give this lecture after 9 o'clock. So we are really grateful
It's
for
always
the
a pleasure,
session.
and it is an opportunity. I should be thanking you. Thank you so
Sure.
much.
Yeah. Thank you all the participants, students, and we are going to commence our class from the Vijayadashami onwards. So please stay tuned. We'll be updating the details in the WhatsApp group and other social media handles. Again, thank you, sir. So let us conclude the session by chanting Loka Samasta Shanti Mantra. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namah. Hari Om.